Hello, today we're going to look at Mark chapter 7. The Pharisees and some of the teachers of the law who had come from Jerusalem gathered around Jesus and saw some of his disciples eating food with hands that were unclean, that is, unwashed. The Pharisees and all the Jews did not eat unless they give their hands a ceremonial washing, holding to the tradition of the elders. When they come from the marketplace, they do not eat unless they wash, and they observe many other traditions, such as the washing of cups, pitchers, and kettles. So the Pharisees and teachers of the law asked Jesus, "Why don't your disciples live according to the tradition of the elders instead of eating their food with unclean hands?" He replied, "Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you hypocrites, as it is written, 'These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship in vain. Their teachings are but rules taught by men.' You have not let go of the commands of God. You have let go of the commands of God and are holding on to the traditions of men." And he said to them, "You have a fine way of setting aside the commands of God in order to observe your own traditions. For Moses said, 'Honor your father and your mother,' and anyone who curses his father or mother must be put to death. But you say that if a man says to his father or mother, 'Whatever help you might otherwise have received from me is korban,' that is, a gift devoted to God, then you no longer let anyone do anything for his father or mother. Thus you nullify the word of God by your tradition that you have handed down, and you do many things like that." Again Jesus called the crowd to him and said, "Listen to me, everyone, and understand this. Nothing outside a man can make him unclean by going into him. Rather, it is what comes out of a man that makes him unclean." After he had left the crowd and entered the house, his disciples asked him about this parable. "Are you so dull?" he asked. "Don't you see that nothing that enters a man from the outside can make him unclean? For it doesn't go into his heart, but into his stomach, and then out of his body." In saying this, Jesus declared all foods clean. He went on, "What comes out of a man is what makes him unclean. For from within, out of a man's heart comes evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. All these evils come from inside and make a man unclean." Jesus left that place and went to the vicinity of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know about it. Yet he could not keep his presence secret. In fact, as soon as she heard about him, a woman whose little daughter was possessed by an evil spirit came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, born in Syrian Phoenicia. She begged Jesus to drive the demon out of her daughter. "First let the children eat all they want," he told her, "for it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs." "Yes, Lord," she replied, "but even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." Then he told her, "For such a reply you may go. The demon has left your daughter." She went home and found her child lying on the bed and the demon gone. When Jesus left the vicinity of Tyre and went through Sidon, down to the Sea of Galilee and into the region of the Decapolis, there some people brought to him a man who was deaf and could hardly talk, and they begged him to place his hand on the man. After he took him aside, away from the crowd, Jesus put his fingers into the man's ears. Then he spit and touched the man's tongue. He looked up to heaven and with a deep sigh said to him, "Ephphatha," which means, "be opened." At this the man's ears were opened, his tongue was loosened, and he began to speak plainly. Jesus commanded them not to tell anyone, but the more he did so, the more they kept talking about it. People were overwhelmed with amazement. "He has done everything well," they said, "and even makes the deaf hear and the mute speak." Well, that's the end of our reading for today. We see here Jesus at work again. We see Jesus healing the deaf, making the deaf hear, and the mute man, enabling him to speak. We see also Jesus removing a demon from a young girl. But we also see that Jesus connects with the people of that time, the people that would question him, the people that would criticize him. And Jesus had an answer for them when they taught him about being clean and unclean. A lot of the Jews and the Pharisees of that day would have been very keen on the law of Moses, which is in the Old Testament. And a lot was taught about what was clean food and what was unclean food. It still goes on today amongst the Jews. But Jesus put a different slant on what he was sharing with them. They asked him about unclean food, and Jesus said it's what is in the man's heart. And he says here, "These people honour me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me." A lot of people used to do the right thing. They used to wash their hands in the right way. They used to eat the right food, even attend the temples and the synagogues. But a lot of people do this today. There is a real concern of mine, is that people seem to want to be seen to be doing the right thing, where they honour me with their lips, and perhaps they attend church and they look good, they dress right, even say the right things, but their hearts are far from me. And then Jesus goes to say their worship is in vain, and they teach but rules taught by men. You see, God looks at the heart, and he sees your heart and he sees my heart. And what's important is that when God looks at our hearts, good things come from our hearts. The overflow of our relationship with God comes from our hearts and affects all the things that we do outside of that. So Jesus made a response to the Pharisees who were quizzing him. And I think for me and for you perhaps it's really important that we look at what our heart is like. Keep your heart soft. Keep your heart open to what God would want to say to you and what God would want to do with you. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching, and I hope you have a really good day.